met people like Brother David or Huston Smith and all those fantastic people who come to the world to, well, what's your message? You're yourself, are you?
What is my message,
Yeah.
you're asking? My message is that things ultimately are better than we realize. That is not to minimize the tragedy, the suffering that exists in the world. That must be looked square in the face and not discounted. But the message of the great wisdom traditions, which I have given my life to study, all say that there is a happy ending that blossoms out of ordeals which are necessarily born and overcome.
Huston Smith, Amerikaans onderzoeker op het gebied van comparative religion, vergelijken van godsdiensten. Een man die ontzettend veel weet, veel succes heeft in Amerika met televisieprogramma's over religie en met wie we in Copenhagen praten. Hij was daar op het Art Meets Science en Spirituality congres en we liepen met hem een stukje mee door Kopenhagen.
It is a happy message, and I do think one of the reasons why I gravitate towards them, and I want to insist, not just because of wishful thinking, because if it's just to happify me, to hell with that, because the most important thing is truth. But I'm persuaded that their convergent message is true, and it is exuberant. Now, where do you find an exuberant worldview today? I mean, is there everybody's chin?
Everybody says the world is coming to an end, but you say we're going the right way.
Well, if you bring up the specific about whether it's coming to an end, maybe it is, but I don't think this world is the final reality in existence. And it may disappear, it may reappear, but the happy ending does not depend on the continuation of this world. Does this world end?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Well, the Indians, say it's like an accordion. It flows out and then it collapses back into pure spirit. And then after eons, incredibly long time, then it flows out again and then it collapses. And I'm not sure that is, I'm invested in that particular truth, but on the other hand, I am invested in the fact that if the world ends, that is not the end of everything, because the ultimate reality is beyond space and time altogether.
Are we part, as human beings, of that ultimate reality? Are we more than just flesh and blood?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Why do you think...
being kind of glib about it.
Well, the people say that we're a meat computer.
So they're welcome to their...
Yeah?
They're welcome to their view, and all different views should be accorded their respect and not ridicule, and that is one possibility. It happens not to be my view of things.
You believe we are manifested in this world where you can touch and see and smell, but we're also manifested in this wider total reality.
Yeah, wider is a spatial term. Oh, did you say social reality? No, you didn't say that.
This total reality
total reality.
That is wider than what the 3 dimensions that we are.
Yes, but because space is only a metaphor, because spirit is beyond space, in one sense the metaphor of wide is good.
Oh, we're going to save our special life here.
See, I do. I think that this is important too.
Okay, well, let's go across the street because we have
You can
nice
say
city, isn't it?
wider, and that is a good metaphor for its infinity, because there is no limitation to it. But you can also say it's like a mathematical point, because it is outside of space, and a mathematical point has no space. So we need all the metaphors we can get to try to describe the infinite.
And you have researched not only the Christian metaphor,
Right.
but you have now lately researched, say, the American Indian metaphor. They have a whole different view of where we
My
come
latest book is on the Native American Church. It's the only book I've written about one single religion. And yes, they have a extremely subtle, sophisticated, noble view, in certain respects better than our own.
When you say better, you mean it's more related to the world around us, they're more integrated?
I certainly don't mean that as a whole it is superior to Hinduism, Buddhism. What I mean is that each of these great wisdom traditions has sort of fleshed out certain virtues, certain truths that others have neglected, and then the others have attended to others. And of course, one of the great virtues of the indigenous people is their sense of place and the relatedness of human life to a particular region of nature.
They're not like us. They still have roots in where they come from.
That's exactly the word, roots. And we're such a rootless people, mobile, like rolling.
Where do we go? Where do we go? Where's your hotel?
Oh, a good question. We should have turned there, between this yellow building and the one there.
Why don't we go around there and go there? Yeah.
Kan je een plezier doen en
Ja.
dit ding dragen?
Yes, I'll carry anything. Huston, Christianity was where you came from, yes? But it now sounds that you have used Christianity and still use it as a basis for looking out.
Well, I was born of missionary parents, Protestants, and by the way, I don't know if you know, but Bill Moyers recently did a 5-part series with me.
Oh, nice! Yeah.
A succession to the Joseph Campbell series.
Yes.
And his first question was, you studied all of these traditions, to which tradition do you belong? And I answered, as I will answer to you, well, I have a body and I have a soul. And my body has remained in the tradition it was born into, and it will be buried a Methodist, which happens to be that tradition. But my soul cannot be contained in any institution. And there I quote Ibn Arabi, who said, "My soul is a mosque for Muslims, a church for Christians, a temple for Hindus, an altar for Zoroastrians," and he added, "and a pasture for gazelles." I love that end. So
yeah, because life is not really limited to life, and love and God is not limited to us.
yeah,
It's for all nature.
it's not limited to what?
To human beings.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you these days people talk about UFOs and stuff like that? Where do you place that?
I laugh. I once saw five at a time. If you say, I say that glibly, because at the time I was absolutely sure, and I was not alone. I was teaching and my dean was with me together, and we saw these 5 saucers. And what I can remember is we were shaken. Shaken to our foundation. We were in his office, and we plunged for the window, and we saw that. We went back, sat down in our chair, and for 5 minutes, neither of us said a word. We were just so shaken by what we had seen. Now, this was 30 years ago,
And that was not very common though in those days, but now it is. Everybody seems to see UFOs.
yes, you see, now it was so important, and so important then. For about 3 days, I didn't think about anything else, and I was in the spill. Now it just seems unimportant. I don't know, were those real? Maybe some kind of optical illusion. So I have no convictions on that score.
But do you from that time on expanded your notion of reality, that there is more than what we can see?
Oh, but I already knew that, so they didn't prove that to me. But that's almost like the bottom line. There's more to reality than what we can see. Empiricism is very good in its own region.
Empiricism is what we can touch and see and measure, but that is what we call the scientific.
Our senses, what our physical senses disclose, that's empiricism. And it's very important for dealing with that part of reality. But that is not all there is. Nobody has ever seen a thought. Nobody has ever seen an emotion.
Well, I don't know. You know about the peyote tradition of the Indians. One of the things they claim is that they can see thoughts, that their songs visualize emotions, stuff like that.
Well, but that songs you can visualize, and if you wish, your emotions, and I don't know exactly. Well, you visualize love because you think of your beloved and so on, but even that is internal. You haven't seen what I have visualized, and they don't see it with their optical eyes.
They see it with their inner vision.
Inner vision, but that's not empiricism because it's not using our physical senses.
You can't put it on a camera.
What?
You cannot put it on a television camera. What you see with your inner vision?
So, no.
Maybe one day.
Well, maybe. Science fiction is interesting, but
yeah, it does influence our awareness of reality. Science fiction and stuff like that.
yeah, that's true. That's true. People live in something of a dream world of science fiction. Yeah, that's some people do that.
A very good example of that dream world that came to be some kind of reality is Bill Gibson's cyberspace.
Is which?
So Bill Gibson came up with the concept of cyberspace.
Oh, cyberspace. Okay, that's for the next generation. I'll come back. If I come back in a reincarnation, I will know a great deal about cyberspace. Now, at this point, it eludes me. Yeah.
Well, maybe it is an illusion, but there's millions of people around the world that believe it's the next thing. I actually happen not to be one of them. I think it's a new tool, and it's interesting, but it's not solving our problems, is it?
I really ought not to speak because I'm so ignorant. I know the phrase, but what the phrase means concretely, I don't know. So I would just be spinning my wheels.
Fine. Let's find where's your hotel now? We are a little bit closer.
Well, let's see if it's down here. It's the there it is.
Okay.
Hotel Opera.
So let's find a few sentences to wrap this up. You still strongly believe the world is not a better place; it's a good place.
Now, by world, if you mean the totality of reality, it is not only good; it is perfect. If you mean world in terms of this spatio-temporal, and even if you take 20 billion light years across, why then it is good, but it does not rival God. It is not perfect. It is...
or could you say we still don't understand how it works? And that we miss the perfection?
Well, that's of course, we don't understand it, but even when we do understand it, it will not be found to be perfect, because then we would have two perfections, and that's impossible.
Huston, thank you.